Let me get in there. Is it live? Okay. From what? You want to see here? Let's see, Rob.
Who's out?
Did I say you? My direction stayed in the front row.
I talked to you like that again. I might have.
Did I talk to you? Stay in the front row.
Good. Psyche disappeared. I thought you about to get that's what. It's my friend.
Stop touching her.
But don't be looking at me.
That's right. Guys, have them, please. There you go. Coach Lee. Coach
Don't be like that. She will warn you. So you Miss Man. Throw it at me again.
I didn't throw it at you. I threw that early.
Oh, well, it's split. You're flat man. Right.
He's married. I'm crying. I'm crying.
He said her black size and 52. You need to bring it back down to 20.
Why are we on the air? Where's it going? Hang out. You said her font size on 52.
What you mean? Periscope.
We got one viewer.
That's what we're on Periscope.
We have it for all the teachers.
I'll tomorrow. We're on Periscope. Okay.
So you guys will all be on the video too. You'll hear everything you say.
I'll wait, you looking at
Everyone in the school,
right now?
live stream.
Oh, can I get in the camera real quick?
No.
How come they got
They can
some?
probably hear you.
It's only one person watching. Look at it. There's only one people watching. I was just in the camera.
Hey, this is y'all.
We'll flip it around so we can see.
Now you don't got no views.
I'm the best linebacker in the county. Ashton sucks.
Yes, it's on the computer.
Hey, back to
Don't talk about him.
So your Scott said that he.
He said,
Nah, he got it in there.
oh my God.
She look like.
We laugh from the half, y'all. We laugh. This is the corniest child I know. We laugh from the half. I want some Skittles. Laugh from the half.
Oh, my bad.
I'm
Come on,
gonna
bring me how much life. You know I gave you something in the first place. You're mean. Oh my, they're delicious.
Oh my God.
Hey, bro, I can really be not iron the bottom of my pants.
I'm always
Do you see that? Not that much left.
You're not eating them anyway.
I am.
He was just in the camera.
I see.
Nobody wants to see you. Nobody cares. Nobody's talking to you.
Oh, you're a dude. Nobody likes you.
No, right here.
If you're an 11th grader, raise your hand. Okay.
Oh, there's someone else.
What grade are you in?
He a knife right here. Did she ask you anything?
She always have her-
Bro, these words keep missing my mouth. She be trying to
So what was it?
You keep talking to me. It's like, dang.
Let me help you out.
She be trying, bro.
Yeah. Nah, she tried. He's straight up. She was like, so sweet. Why you so dumb?
You get it.
What you doing?
Okay, maybe we can just get started. Okay.
Hey, Devon. Yeah. They seem sexy. Hey, how you doing?
Not live from the hive.
Views from the house.
All right. Thank you all for coming. Excuse me. Thank you all for coming. Today we have a presenter. She's going to talk to us about YOLO, being drug-free here at Surrattsville. Her name is Sharon Taylor. She works for the Office of Sheriffs for Prince George's County. She's the Director of Communications. So please, I want you to be very respectful to her. I want you to listen to what she has to say, and please be active participants, ask some questions, tell your stories, and just show her who Surrattsville is. So let's give her some props for coming.
Good morning. You know, I'm not at all concerned about your being respectful to me because I think we respond to people in kind. And I'm going to be enormously respectful to all of you. So I think we'll be fine. Before I get started, I want to introduce you to one of the people that I work with who works for me in the office of the sheriff, and that's Corporal Ricardo Dennis. Corporal Dennis is in his, I guess, what would be considered a casual uniform, a Friday dress uniform, but Deputy Dennis is a sheriff's deputy, which means that he went to the police academy and completed the police academy, which is the Maryland Police Training Commission. So if you think about law enforcement in the county, there are police officers and there are sheriff's deputies. They both go to the same training class, and then they simply decide at graduate, well, they've actually decided before there, but with the same training, one says, I'm going to the police department, the other says, I'm going to the sheriff's office. So the question becomes immediately, what is the difference between police officers and the sheriff's office, right? Does anybody know what the difference is between the police department and the sheriff's office?
Sheriff's high.
I'm sorry?
Sheriff is higher.
You say the sheriff is higher. Actually, that's not exactly right, but in terms of a sort of protocol, it's accurate in terms of the sheriff is elected. Like the county executive is elected, like the county council people are elected. Whereas the police chief is appointed by the county executive who is elected, right? So the police chief can get fired by the county executive. The only person that can fire the sheriff is voters. Get it? Okay. But let's talk a little bit about responsibilities. The police are responsible for law and order. So that means police are answering calls from citizens where they're saying somebody broke into my house, or I see this store is being robbed, or, you know, this corner right here where this liquor store is, there's always people just hanging out and being disorderly, and so they take care of that. The sheriff's agency pretty much does a lot of work after the law enforcement officers do their work. So let's say that somebody gets killed. The police are on the scene and they think they know who did it, but that person's not there anymore. They issue a warrant for that person. That warrant comes to the sheriff's office. That means a warrant is a document that is a court document. The police department applies to the court to get a warrant. That warrant comes to the sheriff's office. So the police are saying, okay, we're back to taking care of law and order. We need you to find that person. We think they're the person that did it. And so we need you to find that person. So now the sheriff's office steps in.
Some feedback.
Oh, that's okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
just keep
So the sheriff's office now is looking for that same person, you see? So in that way, we are the arm of the courts. Okay, so that's all I want to tell you about police and the sheriff, except in terms of what I do for the sheriff. And what I do for the sheriff is I manage all of the communications, which means if you look at hashtag PGSO, you'll find our Twitter page. If you look at PG Sheriff Blogspot, you'll find all the news that we put out. And so in a world where the police are often responding to the newspaper and radio and television, in the sheriff's office, we're pushing news out so you'll know what it is that we do for the community. That's my role. If the sheriff has a busy speech to write, I write that speech. Everybody knows the president has a speechwriter, right? Well, the sheriff has a speechwriter too, and that's me. Now, I do want to talk to you a little bit about the sheriff, because most of you are, what is it, between 16 and 18? Between 16 and 18. Okay. So if you're between 16 and 18, that means you were tiny on 9/11, right? You were tiny on 9/11. But it also means that the first president that popped into your head was Barack Obama, right? Is that the first president you started to think about, most of you? Who thought about a president before Barack Obama? You did? Who was it? Okay, it was George W. Bush. So how old are you? Okay, so we probably have a political animal over here who was thinking about a president before Barack Obama. And the reason I mention all of this to you is because this is the story of your life. These things that happen in your life are the story of your life. And when you say you only live once, you have to think about that. You have to think about, what are the choices I'm gonna make if you only live once in this life? There are no do-overs. Do you know what I mean? You know how, like, if you wrote something down and you don't like what it is, or you take a picture and you don't like that picture, take another picture, it's a do-over. That's not what life is. So you gotta be in the get ready stage. That's what school is. School is the get ready stage. And you all are at a critical point in the get ready stage. And of course, we don't all come from the same circumstances. I came from very meager circumstances. I grew up in New Orleans. My mother was a single parent. My mother didn't get remarried until I was 16. So I was probably kind of fully formed as a person, but all along that way, somehow, somewhere, I had been taught to think about the choices I wanted to make. Now, I know that teachers and principals and counselors talk to you all the time about the choices you make, right? What are the choices you're thinking about right now? Anybody? Somebody. I don't want to just talk at you. I want you to talk back to me. What are the choices you're thinking about right now? I'm sorry? Your science fair project? What grade are you in? So are you a science buff? And when is the project due?
I know I'm doing robotic arm.
A robotic arm. Do you know what? That's always what I hear about Surrattsville. You all are what's happening now. There's always something exciting happening at Surrattsville. So that's a pretty interesting. Now, is this a team project? Okay, so that's what he's thinking about. Anybody else? Choices you're thinking about making? I'm sorry? Going to practice? Somebody else. You're thinking about getting a job? How old are you? You're thinking about getting a job for the summer or after school or a regular job? Does that mean, you mean like a full-time job?
No.
Part-time job? Right. So you must have some goal in mind for that full-time job, right? That you're trying to achieve. I'm not getting much feedback here right now, but I'm thinking what I'm talking about is what choices you make to get to some place that you want to be. So let me go back to Sheriff High. When you were in 2002, when you were tiny, Sheriff High was hired from Norfolk, Virginia, to come to Prince George's County to be the chief of police. Now, you might not know that, but the police department was under investigation at the time for abuse, specifically for allegations of abuse and mishandling of dogs on the people of Prince George's County. So Sheriff High came in to, have you heard recently on television about the Justice Department forcing a reform on police departments that they think have misused their authority? Has anybody heard? So Sheriff High came in to do that. And he did that over a 6-year period, during which basically his philosophy was, if you follow the Constitution in this work, if you treat the citizens of Prince George's County fairly, then you will be able to continue to do your job. So he really threw down the gauntlet in terms of what he expected of police officers, okay? Now, I'm going a long way around to tell you that what I think Sheriff High represents now, and he did at that time, was a kind of courage in leadership. A kind of courage in leadership that makes the hard choices. It's not always easy to make the hard choice, which means it's not always easy to decide to do the right thing. Am I making sense?
Yes.
So sometimes we say, well, you know, I don't know, maybe I should do this or maybe I should do that. In grown-up life, that's called competing choices. That's called competing ideas, right? Where you have to choose between something where it doesn't look like it's so black and white, and you have to make a really, really hard choice. How many of you are thinking of getting ready to think about going to college? How many of you are thinking about another choice other than college? Okay, so for some of the people who are thinking about choices other than college, what is that choice? You don't know yet? What is your choice? Nobody knows, they don't know that they don't really want to go to college, but they don't know what that choice is. What is yours?
The military.
So, the military. I'm sorry? Trade school. What kind of trade school? Auto mechanic school. Military. Anybody else? It was military. So these are excellent choices. Now, I know that we are all supposed to tell you that you got to get ready to go to college. And you know what? College is an excellent choice. Because during this whole period from elementary school to high school, that's the get ready period, where you really kind of understand some basics about some subjects. You learn how to think about some things you are going to be thinking about in college. They refine that ability to think about it. They really refine that ability to think about it. And they force you to do an investigative process into a lot of things in life so that you can decide, if I want to be a lawyer, I got to understand what that law means. I got to understand where that law came from. If you want to be a communications director, you have to decide what is the difference between using the print media and using the television media. For instance, when the chief came here to do reform, the Washington Post was beating us up every day. Just every day. No matter what he did to try to get it right, they would beat us up every day. So what I decided after a while is, I said, Chief, since we're working so hard, why don't we do a press conference and tell people what we're doing? So he said, yeah, let's have it about 1:30. I said, no, let's have it about 10:30. And he said, why? I said, because we have it at 10:30. All the television stations come. The Washington Post will come. I can't keep them out. The Washington Times will come. But now remember, this is 2005, right? He said, well, what difference does that make? I said, Prince George's County is a television and radio market. By the time the Washington Post writes it the next day, you will have been on the 12 o'clock news, 4 o'clock news, 5 o'clock news, the 6 o'clock news, the 10 o'clock news, and the 11 o'clock news. And when people look at the paper the next day to see what the Washington Post says, they'll say, I don't have to see that. The chief already told me what he wanted to know. And the Washington Post began to know after about 4 press conferences that I was beating them to the punch. So those are the kinds of things you have to think about when you want to make choices. What is going to be my strategy since I only live once? What's going to be my strategy? His strategy is going to be going to auto mechanic school. As cars get more complicated and technical all the time, he's going to be a high-tech auto mechanic. He's not going to be a nuts and bolts wrench guy. He's going to be a high-tech auto mechanic. He's probably going to make a lot of money. Somebody else is going to go to military school and learn about radar and missile ballistics and all those incredible things that we use to keep the world safe. But somebody in here is going to go to college and get me the next smartphone app. What's going to be the next thing? Maybe he's going to build a robot that's going to clean my house right after my cleaning lady retires. You know what I mean? So even though 9/11 is in the backdrop of your life as a really sad and strange time and horrid each time I think about it, the rise of Barack Obama to the presidency with a family that is young like you, ready to go off to college, it must be an exciting time. In 2001, I didn't know what a smartphone was, right? How are you going to make it different? How is a single one of you going to make that phone different? What are you going to do with computing? Is somebody going to put Bill Gates out of business? Because right now, the thing about the smartphone and the computer is that they fundamentally changed the whole world. Okay? You know what I mean? I mean, can you imagine something changing the whole world? You sit down at a computer, chances are you're getting what? What's on there? Microsoft, right? Every computer. Not some computers, every single computer. What kind of mind thinks like that? What kind of mind says, I've got to create something that everybody will want, even if they don't know yet that they want it? That's what Bill Gates said. That's what Steve Jobs said. I'm gonna imagine something in my mind that people will want that they don't even yet know they want. I didn't know I wanted a smartphone. I didn't know I wanted to take your picture and tweet it out that Deputy Dennis and I were at Surrattsville High School this morning, but I do, because you know what Corporal Dennis and Deputy Brooks have made as our slogan for our Twitter page? PGSO is everywhere. It says Prince George's Sheriff's Office is everywhere. So you know what? Now we got people tweeting back to us like, wow, PGSO really is everywhere. I didn't know I wanted that. Steve Jobs knew I wanted that. And he knew I needed it. And he knew I needed an iPad and an iPhone and all the other stuff. I'm like, I go to the gym in the morning. I go to the gym at like 5:30 in the morning. Okay, the only thing that gets me through 45 minutes on the treadmill is the iPod in my head with my favorite music, right? That's what gets me through, makes it like nothing, right? Because what I've decided, one of the choices I've made since you only live twice, and see, I'm old now, so I have to really think about it. You only live once. I have to think about maintaining my mobility. You know, I mean, you get old and your bones get loose and all that kind of stuff. So I get up in the morning, I go to the gym. I keep it moving. Because what I know is at work, the sheriff may have something he wants me to do, or might have to go to a meeting, or I might have to come over to Surrattsville. I don't know that the evening is mine. So I get up, I hit the floor, I'm out the door. And when I come back, I'm like ready for the world to just bring it on. So I'm saying all this sort of as a stream of consciousness to tell you that I'm always thinking about the choices I make, right? I'm thinking about what I'm watching on television. I think about what I'm listening to on the radio. I'm thinking about all that thing because all those things are the backdrop of my life. They define the times that I've lived in. Do you know what I mean? So you have to understand those. But in my mind, you don't understand where you are or where you're going until you understand where you've been. And that's why I bring up Barack Obama and 9/11. In my mind, where we are today is a function of pretty much where we've been. So where you're going is going to be a function of the choices you make right now. Every time I come to a school, the administration is very interested in me talking about making good choices and being drug-free. And I'm really interested in your making good choices. And one of the really good choices I'm interested in your making is being drug-free. But let me tell you why. Nobody really needs me to tell you that drugs will damage your body. Nobody really needs me to tell you that drugs will clog your mind. And nobody really needs me to tell you that if you are stopped and you are impaired from drug use or you have drugs on you, it's illegal and you'll go to jail, right? Who needed me to tell them that? Who needed me to tell them that? Okay, all right, so the reason I'm telling you all of that now is because that kind of distraction keeps you from where you're going. That's the main reason I think you should make good decisions and be drug-free. Because I think every day, why would I get up, take a shower, put on makeup, find something to wear, make my breakfast, and brave the traffic to go to a job that I don't want, to go to a job that I don't enjoy, and to go to a job and work with people I don't care about. I wouldn't do that, and I don't want you to do it either. So you've got to make the kinds of choices that allows you to always have choices. I maybe got to that the long way around. Maybe I got to it the long way around. But you've got to make the kind of choices that allows you to make certain choices, to always have a bunch of choices. Because if you can only have one choice, then you don't have choices. If there's only one place you can go, you have no choices. When you get two, it's better. When you get three, it's better. When your choices are unlimited, it's really what's happening now. Choices is how you get what you want, and you can live the life you want. So right now, even though, you know, they're not life-altering choices right now, but there's some pretty important choices. I want to make sure I have a pretty strong math background because I think I'm going into medicine. I want to make sure my calculus numbers are pretty good because I'm going into this technical field. I want to make sure that, you know, whatever it is that you are planning, get ready. Get ready. Now, the material I looked up on college, why it's more beneficial than having a high school diploma. Once again, in Prince George's County, where we have so many, where we have a really affluent community, we have strong families, we have a good job market. I think, I don't think I really have to say this that much, but I'm gonna go through a couple of these. With a college education or the right background in terms of what you're gonna do if you're not going to college, you're simply gonna make more money. I mean, we're not talking just a few $1,000s. We're talking millions. We're talking about $1 million or more dollars you're gonna make by getting a college education or going into a field where you've moved beyond the skills of someone with a high school education. You'll have more opportunities. I kind of just went over that. If you have a college education, it doesn't matter what the field is. The college education or that special training like Prince George's Community College. Does anybody know about Prince George's Community College? Prince George's Community College, let me just tell you, in case no one told you, is one of the most highly rated community colleges in the country. Who knew? Nobody in here knew, right? Prince George's Community College is one of the most highly rated colleges in the country. So let's say you've decided you're not doing a 4-year education right now. Let's say you decided that you're going to do a 2-year certification for some computer skill or for nursing or whatever. What that means is you then put yourself in a position to work and go to school if you decided to. So while I think my parents always taught me that the pathway was just a one-way path, the world has created many more choices for you to wind up in the place where you want to be. So that's kind of what I mean when I think about you only live once. I want you to make good choices about how you're trying to get to where you're going and make choices not to allow foolishness, like hanging out with the wrong people, hanging out with people who don't share your interests, hanging out with people who don't share your values, hanging out with people who really might not even be your friends, and doing drugs where, you know, this is just something that gets you off track from where you are. Okay, your turn. What is the number one? How many of you are registered to vote? How many of you are over 17? Okay, so this is not a voting. This is not a class that's eligible to vote. How many of you will be able to vote next year? One, couple? Okay, okay, that's good, that's good. So you'll know that next year you'll be able to register to vote, right? Okay, so somebody tell me about the current election. Tell me what you think about the current election. I'm sorry? World War III? Tell me what you mean by that. I'm sorry? Okay, we have somebody who thinks that both the candidates are crazy, but why do you say that? Okay, he says, I don't think I need to explain it because Donald Trump is crazy and everybody thinks he's crazy and I don't know what I have to explain. Okay, anybody else? Tell me about the election. Tell me what your parents say about the election. Hello? Anybody? Anybody? It's about to happen in 10 days. Oh, okay. Tell me.
We're going back to Africa.
We're going, you mean African Americans are going back to Africa? And the Mexicans are going back to Mexico? Okay, this is the gospel according to Donald Trump. You know, listen, it makes sense to me. It makes sense to me that you're thinking about it in those terms and that you're laughing about it. But listen, the truth is, especially for those of you who are going to register to vote next year, this is time for you to get your head in the game in terms of the world that you live in. Because if you think that you control a game that you don't understand, you are highly mistaken. You can't play football with baseball skills. Okay? You cannot play football with baseball skills. You can't play baseball with football skills. So I know that, I don't know that you're ready to start thinking about it, but I'm telling you to get ready to start thinking about it, okay? You cannot control the game if you do not understand the rules. And democracy is a set of rules. And we are in an environment that seeks to turn those rules upside down. You better get ready, because I'm about to move on. I'm going to retire in a couple of years. I'm probably going to write, maybe do some commentary. I'm leaving it to you guys. I need you to get it right. It's not my world. I've done my thing. So I really need you to start thinking about, what is democracy to me? What's it going to mean in my life? And how am I going to take my place in it? And I think that's where we are right now in terms of the election. For someone, how many people know that Donald Trump said that if the election, if he loses the election, he may not accept that he lost?
I heard that.
What does that mean?
He think that the election is rigged, and then like he think that they messed it up or something.
Right, but what does it mean in terms of democracy?
He think it's corrupt.
Okay, he thinks it's corrupt. But let me tell you one of the things that I think no one's probably ever talked about in the mainstream press. The very spark of what American democracy is, the thing that makes us just unique in the world, is that we can have the most contentious elections, and then what happens is, when the score is tallied and someone is proclaimed the winner, there is a smooth transition of power. And usually the person who loses calls to concede the election and to congratulate whoever the winner is. That is at the core of what our democracy is. And when someone who stands before us, claiming their capacity to be the president, decides that that doesn't work for him or her, we have lost something unique. We are in danger of losing something really unique. The challenge for me is, I'm not sure how much of that you get in the everyday course of I don't know, government or history or whatever the case may be. Do you all talk about that a lot in school? You do? You do. Okay, well that's good, because it's really been on my mind. As I get ready to, I don't know, I'm gonna move on. I brought some things that you guys might not want. And if you don't want them, just tell me, because I can take them back home. I got some other people who will want them. I am a serious American history buff. And I am particularly interested in American history as it relates to the civil rights movement and things like that. And so I've spent the last probably 25 years educating myself about that. And so I brought some books that I want to give away. But let me just tell you now, if you're not interested, please don't take my book. So how many of you have Netflix? Okay. Okay, well, now I hit the jackpot. Okay. How many of you know who Ava DuVernay is? Who is she? Ava DuVernay directed Selma. She's a Black female director. How many of you saw Selma? Okay. On Netflix right now, Ava DuVernay has a documentary called The 13th. 13th. It's absolutely awesome. There are people on there you will know, like Common, like Jelani Cobb, who writes for the for the New Yorker magazine. It is an awesome, awesome documentary. I urge you to watch it. But this is the book I actually want to give away. I actually was going to give you the new Jim Crow, except that I see that it's mine where I've turned the corners of the pages, so I can't give you that one. Okay, The Warmth of Other Suns. Does anybody know what this is? No. The Warmth of Other Suns is a book about the Great Migration. And I'm going to just tell you two things about the Great Migration. One, the Great Migration is millions of people, African-American people in the South, who fled the tyranny of the South and went up into the North and to the West. And that's where probably most of our families in the North came from. The woman who wrote this book wrote for the New York Times. Her name is Isabel Wilkerson. Okay. I don't know how to get it. Okay, who's the #1 civil rights buff?
Coach Wade, what do you have to say?
Oh, no, I want the book.
Oh, Coach Wade wants to go.
Should I give it to, okay, because none of you all are gonna read it, right?
Honest interruption. This is Montgomery. Montgomery, speaking for.
I'm sure Mecca would like to read it.
Huh?
Mecca would like to read it.
Would you? Okay. Yeah, I tell you what, I'm gonna give it to him, and I want you guys to borrow it. It's a fabulous, fabulous book. So listen.
Students, at this time you are to report to the third five.
Well,
At this time you are to report to the third.
Oh, no, I listen, I don't. I think I probably rambled. I think you guys are far away from this kind of thinking right now, but you know what? I don't regret a minute of it, because if you walk away from here and think about anything I said, I'm good. So have a great day and have a great rest of the school year and have a great holiday.
Thank you. Before you leave, give some love to Miss Taylor for coming and talking to us today.
Hey, my friend, who is this?